Hi, my name is Adam Eckerly, and today I'm going to show you a demonstration of Rubrik CloudOut. Rubrik CloudOut enables Rubrik clusters to copy snapshots to archival locations and continue to manage the lifecycle of that data. In this demo, I'm going to start by showing the configuration of archival locations, and then we can look at how to use those archival locations in an SLA domain. Finally, I'll show you how to recover a file from an archive snapshot. Now let's jump over to the Rubrik UI. In the upper right-hand corner, we have a gear. Let's just click that, and then we can click Archival Locations. This brings us to a basic dashboard that shows us some information, ingress and egress traffic from our various archival locations. You can see that we've got a few archival locations that are already configured, one for Azure, S3, and GCP. Let's take a look at adding a new archival location. So we'll click the plus up in the upper right-hand corner. And then the first thing we have is the drop-down menu. This shows us all the archive types that we support. As mentioned just a few seconds ago, we support the major cloud players. We also support Amazon Glacier, not just S3. And we support NFS and generic object store if you have some external storage. And we also support tape archives that are being managed by QStar software on Windows, in case you need that. And then each different cloud provider has different information that will be required. This stuff is pretty easy to get. It's just, each cloud provider works a little bit differently. So the information that you need to set up the archival location is a little bit different. And then once you get in here and get all this information, you click add, and then Rubrik will then add this as an archival location and verify that it has the actual access that's required. So now that we have our archival locations kind of set up, let's take a look at what it's going to take to actually use an archival location. And that requires an SLA domain. So this screen just shows us all the SLA domains that we have configured on this cluster. I'm going to take a look at this demo AE, my little demo SLA. You can see here that currently there is no archival location configured. So let's go into there. And again, here on the dashboard, we can see archival policy is not configured. We'll go up here to the ellipsis and click edit. And we'll go to the second screen, which talks about retention and replication. So for this example, I'm going to say that I only want to keep data local for 1 day. Obviously, in a real environment, you're probably going to want to keep data local much longer. But just because this is a demo environment, let's say 1 day. Then I'm going to turn on archiving, and then I can pick what kind of archiving location that I want. I can pick S3, and I can pick the GCP archival location that we have set up. And you can see that there's really no extra options here. There is instant archive, which essentially means that as soon as I take a snapshot of the workload, I want to immediately send it to the archive location. I don't want to wait a day to start sending that data to the archive. I want to do it right away. So that's what instant archive does. It doesn't necessarily expire the data on the local cluster right away. We still keep that most recent snapshot, so a day's worth of snapshot, even with instant archive enabled. But let's make this a little bit more interesting, and let's choose my Azure storage container. And you can see that I do get some new options created here or presented. The default option is a default access tier only. That essentially means that whatever tier of storage this storage container was created on in Azure, that's where we're going to send the data. So by default, it's the hot tier. That's good for data that we want to keep and make easily accessible. Even in when it's in the cloud. If we have data that we know we're not going to need to be readily accessible, we don't care if there's a little bit of latency in recovering that data, then we can send it to the archive access tier. And then if I had it configured, there's some additional settings that you need that I don't happen to have set up in this environment. But we can also do smart tiering. Smart tiering is kind of the best of both worlds, where we can send data initially to the hot tier, and we can put this duration in a number of days. So let's say I want to keep 2 weeks of data in the hot tier. Then we can use Rubrik's intelligence again to automatically, after 2 weeks, tier that data down into colder and archive tiers. This really helps with optimizing costs for storage and making sure that the right amount of data is available with the lowest latency. One thing to consider here is that smart tiering does require what we call a bolt instance. It's kind of a transient compute image in Azure that sits next to the data. So we don't have to send data outside of your Azure account to do this. We fire up this Bolt instance and it facilitates doing this smart tiering for us. So that's pretty cool and a nice option to have when we're working with Azure. I'm going to change this back to defaults. We'll click next. This will tell us, kind of the changes that we're making to this SLA policy, and we'll click update. Right? So now we can see that this SLA now has an archival policy and it gives us that information. Now we're going to actually recover a file from a cloud archive. So if we go out here to virtual machines, we'll just take a look at our vSphere virtual machines and let's find some demo VMs. I actually know that there is this Linux virtual machine called demo AWS Lin is being archived to an S3 bucket. And let's try to find a file to restore or to grab from this VM. So every VM has a host file. So we can see here that there is a host file. Here's the latest version of this host file, and there are actually 11 versions available. So if we click on there, we can scroll down, and let's say I want to find an older copy, just to use as an example here. You see this little cloud icon here? This means that it is available on the cloud archive. If we scroll back up, notice that these latest snapshots don't have that cloud icon because they are not yet archived in the cloud. So let's click on the ellipsis and we have a few options. We can download this file. So basically what will happen, this will create a link and the ability for us to download this file to our local system. We can also click restore. Restore will restore this file over the original file. So we just want to get back this file. Maybe we accidentally deleted it. And then we have export, so we can kind of redirect. Maybe we want to put this file on the original virtual machine, but not quite in the same location, or maybe we want to give it a different name. That will allow us to do that. And then we can definitely do more than just one file, right? Let's say we need to restore a few directories or lots of files. We can definitely select additional files, and what will happen is we'll create a zip file for you to download and collect all those different files at the same time. So I'm just going to click download, and then we'll see here momentarily that in the activities pane, we're going to get some activity here, and then it's going to generate a download link for us to actually capture that file, and I can download that to my local machine and then do whatever I want with it. Maybe I just want to look at it and inspect it and maybe do a diff to see what's changed, or maybe I want to manipulate it and then copy it back to the original machine. So the main point here is just that we can go in and surgically extract even just a single file from a cloud archive backup without having to download or egress an entire machine or big chunk of data. We can just grab the exact data that we need because of how Rubrik is able to index and store the data out in the cloud. Okay, and now you can see that the download path has been created. So I'll just click on that and you can see we have an icon to download the file. So we just click download and you can see the host has downloaded through my web browser here. And now I have access to that on my local system. So just to recap what we've taken a look at, we talked about archival location configuration and the different types of archival locations we support. We used an archival location in an SLA domain to copy protected data out to a public cloud provider. And then we used the Rubrik CDM interface to search for and recover a file directly from an S3 bucket. To find out more information about Rubrik's CloudOut or Rubrik in general, please visit Rubrik.com.